Welcome, lovely chosen ones. If everyone agrees on your identity, you have been modified. Allow that to sink in, because right now some people are out here telling everyone you're a living miracle, while others believe you're Satan's favorite employee. Same individual. Isn't that wild? But here's the kicker. They are both talking about you. That is not a glitch. That is divine design. Psychologists argue that we do not view individuals for who they are. We view them just as we are. So, what does it imply when two completely different universes collide with your name and give you contradictory reviews? It signifies you've evolved into something that few can handle, a mirror with no filter. A fact that cannot be controlled. A soul so raw that people are either mending or hiding from it. And let's be honest, some of these folks couldn't tell if they wanted to date you, dethrone you, or diagnose you. They pray for you 1 minute and then prey on you the next. So sit tight, because in this video, we'll reveal why people are responding as if they found two distinct versions of you in parallel worlds. Spoiler alert, you did not alter their masks, did. Let's go deep. Number 1, they don't see you. They're looking in the mirror. You hold up. They aren't genuinely seeing you. They're looking at their own reflection in the mirror. You are inadvertently holding up. And the mirror does not lie. It reveals all that individuals are unwilling to acknowledge about themselves. That is the underlying reason why people's views of you vary so much. It has less to do with who you are and more to do with the aspects of yourself you discreetly reveal to those who are self-aware, healed, or at least honest about their imperfections. You are a breath of fresh air. You remind them of who they might become if they quit pretending. You inspire them. They notice your perseverance and believe it represents true strength. They are attracted to your depth because it demonstrates that it is possible to live truly in a society filled with masks. However, you are a living menace to those who live off of facade status, games, and illusions. You make them feel uncomfortable. They'll label you overly intense, arrogant, false, or whatever helps them avoid confronting what your presence exposes about their inner emptiness. You did nothing wrong. You simply strolled in with the kind of light that reveals whatever has been hidden in the shadows. That is why individuals who have never had a true discussion with you will claim to know you. They are responding to the mirror, not you. Your confidence mirrors their insecurities. Your honesty exposes their falsehoods. Your limits serve as a reminder to them where they have none. So they make projections. They fabricate tales. They either exaggerate your defects or extol your virtues, depending on whatever version of you allows them to escape the truth about themselves. This is why some people worship you as if you were divine, while others see you as the devil in disguise. And either version has the whole truth. You are simply you. But people only encounter the pieces of you that their soul is prepared to bear. That's what they'll speak about. That is the version they will disseminate. In most circumstances, it isn't even about you. It is about what your presence reveals. You didn't ask to be a mirror, yet you became one anyhow. Not everyone is prepared to confront their own mirror. Number 2, you unintentionally become both their cause and their treatment. You didn't intend to incite anybody. You were just living your truth, minding your own business, and trying to survive the fire. You never asked for a walkthrough. However, you eventually became both a trigger and a cure, sometimes for the same individual. That's when things become messy. People don't comprehend how much energy it takes to just live as yourself when your entire essence meets all you've hidden. Your strength reminds them of where they failed. You are healing. Reminds them of where they are still bleeding. Your stubbornness to shrink reminds them of how many times they settled. So now you are the issue. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you exposed everything they had been trying not to feel. And here's the twist. Some of the same individuals who are secretly hating on you are also attempting to emulate you. They watch your every move not because they adore you, but because you've tapped into something they wish they could have without doing the interior effort. It combines jealousy and adulation, revulsion and dependence. This is why some of them cling to you while yet resenting you. They want the peace you fought for, but not the struggle you went through to get it. They're not sure whether to label you dangerous or heavenly. To others, you are the one who sowed the seed of change in their lives, and they'll never forget it. Others will see you as the one who has upset their comfort zone. They will never forgive you for not forcing either response. Your efforts accomplished its purpose. It exposes and heals. And not everyone is prepared for both. People will tell you you're too much when they don't have enough for themselves. They'll claim you changed, when in reality you just outgrew their dysfunction. What people label crazy or perplexing is really their emotional system. Short-circuiting occurred because your presence cut through their masks and went directly to the part of them they had been avoiding. You didn't want to be a mirror, but you became a revelation. The wildest thing is that you're just getting started. The same presence that offends them now may really rescue them tomorrow. Number 3, your presence disrupted the power structure. There are individuals who base their whole feeling of power on the assumption that you will always be little as long as you are broken, mute, uncertain of yourself, or following the script. They felt in charge. You weren't meant to ascend. You were never meant to realize who you really are. And at that instant, you disrupted a power system. They were secretly hoping to feel relevant. Your vulnerability was their comfort zone. Your silence affirmed their supremacy. Your misunderstanding handed them the advantage. So when you began thinking for yourself, recovering, establishing boundaries, and speaking clearly, they didn't perceive any progress. They identified a danger. They saw the collapse of everything they had constructed on top of your submission. It wasn't that you were an issue. It was about you not being their puppet anymore. The same individuals who seemed to be assisting you were really manipulating you, keeping you engaged in cycles that benefited them. Because as long as you questioned yourself, they seemed smart. They felt powerful as long as you suffered. You rising meant they had to face the true reality. Their power was only effective when you were weak. Without your reliance, their identities began to unravel. This is why they began flipping. They alternate between being helpful and passive hostile. Then they get frigid. Then they behave like the victim. It is not confusion. It's a panic. It occurs when someone loses emotional influence over you and no longer understands how to contribute to your life, your confidence, independence, and tranquility. It ripped the foundation from beneath the phony character they were performing. You revealed their performance without even trying. You didn't need vengeance. You did not have to prove anything. Your development was the earthquake. Your lucidity resulted in the collapse. And now they're trapped in a role that only makes sense when you're silent. That's why their perception of you shifted suddenly. You stopped wanting their approval. That means their ego had to confront a scary reality. That power existed only in your absence. Now that you've returned to yourself, you no longer have that control. They do not know who they are without it. Number 4, they can't tell whether you're sent from heaven or hell since you show them both. You enter into a room, and something changes. People cannot articulate it, but they experience it. For others, it feels like a breath of fresh air, like their soul had just been glimpsed for the first time in years. Others experience immediate tightness. Their chest tightens, and their mood changes. They don't understand why they're suddenly furious or defensive. However, it is not random. It's you. Not because you're being too loud or theatrical, but because your energy conveys truth. And truth does not come in gently. It shakes everything up. You have a peculiar impact on others. You may be both comforting and confrontational. You are soothing to the lowly, but intolerable to the arrogant. You express life. However, your presence reveals what is lifeless inside them. That is why they cannot figure you out. Are you sent from God, or do you pose a threat? Are you a gift or a warning? The reality is you are both. You are both the test and the instructor, the lesson and the lightning. Some individuals meet you and their soul exclaims, "Finally," while others greet you. And their ego shouts, "Run," and that's when the misunderstanding starts. Because you bring forth what they have kept concealed. Shame, regret, and unresolved anguish. You reawaken aspects of them that were buried years ago. However, instead of seeing you as a gift, they begin to transfer their pain onto you. So now you have one group celebrating your name as if you were heavenly, and another group denouncing you as if you had wrecked their lives. But they're talking about the same guy. That's not a contradiction. That is a revelation. You show who they really are under the surface, and not everyone is ready to meet themselves on that level. You did not come to this world to be understood. You came to stir something. And when you do, it feels like a spiritual cleanse. Some folks will appreciate it. Others will resent you for constantly entering their lives. In any case, you performed your job because true light does not just shine. It exposes. When people see both their beauty and their depravity in your presence, they begin to question everything. That is why they cannot categorize you. You are not heaven or hell. You are the mirror that allows people to see both. Number 5. You are not being misunderstood. You are being deciphered via other people's hurts. You aren't the mystery they are. You're not difficult to read. You are just being translated via other people's grief. The majority of them are unaware of this. They aren't reacting to you. They are reacting to what you have reminded them of. That is why you may say the identical thing to two individuals and receive very different responses. The first is his healing, and the second is his danger. Same words, same tone, yet filtered through two very distinct mental worlds. Some individuals never saw healthy confidence growing up, so when they see you standing tall and unapologetic about who you are, they don't know what to name it. Their brain looks for the closest match and settles on arrogance. It isn't because you're arrogant. It's because they've only ever seen confidence used as a weapon, never as truth. They've seen individuals lie, fabricate, and brag in order to manipulate. But when you go in with a genuine thing, people get skeptical. Not because you're incorrect, but because their emotional language doesn't yet include a term for you. Then there's the stillness. For some, it is sacrosanct. For others, it is punishment. They believe you are giving them the cold shoulder when, in truth, you are only guarding your peace. But they grew up in surroundings where silence indicated the withdrawal of affection. So your silence seems like rejection, despite the fact that you are merely refusing to participate in nonsense. Your presence isn't perplexing. It is just being passed through those who have not completed their inner work. That's why they mislabeled you. That is why they are misquoting you. That is why people believe you are aloof, unpleasant, or overbearing. You are being observed through fractured glasses, emotional scars that have yet to be healed. You are not the distortion. It is their view and the crazy portion. Some of them are aware that they are misunderstanding you, but they would rather hold on to the tale they have made than do the effort to see you properly, since seeing you clearly would require them to relive their own grief. Many people are unprepared for that amount of honesty. So, no, you are not misunderstood. You are being deciphered, projected on, and interpreted via suffering unrelated to you. Most individuals, including themselves, are unwilling to recognize this fact. Number 6. Some want you revered, while others want you diminished. Some individuals have formed opinions about you before you ever said anything. They don't know you, yet they need you to fit someplace. Some people look to you as the wise one, the healer, the example, and the survivor. Others need you to be the idiot, failure, rebel, or problem. It doesn't matter who you are. It's about who they need you to be in order to make sense of their own situation. Some people elevate you not out of love, but because placing you on a pedestal makes them feel inspired or spiritual by association. Others criticize you because they can't abide the reality that your existence makes their life more difficult to manage. Regardless, neither group is seeing you. They are reacting to the version of you that allows them to feel in control. And that is what this is all about, control. If they can see you clearly, they may have to reconsider all they think about themselves. If they accept that your experience, strength, and progress are genuine, they may have to consider why they are still trapped, resentful, and faking. Instead, they attempt to diminish you. They crack jokes. They let people know you've changed. They emphasize your shortcomings. Because if they can lower your expectations, they won't have to increase their own. It's incredible how people will speak about you as if they've studied your soul, when in fact they've simply scanned a version of you that matches their story. They don't want to go near enough to understand reality, since it may destroy their carefully crafted picture of themselves. So one group says you deserve respect, while the other says you deserve disgrace. Both responses reveal more about them than about you. Your own being is a spiritual challenge. Your progress, clarity, and presence. It challenges the illusion. People will either evolve or attack you because of it. But this is the reality. You do not have to fit into anyone's version. Because whether people appreciate you or attempt to undermine you, your truth remains untouchable. Number 7. You are the reminder that they cannot purchase. So you come into places with something money cannot buy, and they know it. You did not need to perform. You did not have to network your way into respect. You did not need to over-explain, overcompensate, or over-polish yourself. You just showed there, and it shook others who based their value on things you never needed to. People with soul. Your presence feels like home. However, those who have spent their lives projecting a false image via status, appearance, charm, or manipulation, you're really unnerving since you're not playing the game. You do not need the acclaim, the attention, or the superficial approbation. You hold something primal, anchored, and true. That kind of sincerity is intimidating to individuals who have never known themselves outside of affirmation. Your presence causes a silent crisis for them since they have done everything properly by global standards, including titles, followers, and crafted perfection. And yet, without attempting, you outshine everything. Not because you are louder, but because what you represent cannot be reproduced. It cannot be purchased. It cannot be faked. It's a spiritual substance. It's the soul. That's why people could laugh you, dismiss you, or treat you as if you're too deep. They'll claim you're doing too much, but deep down, they realize you're doing something they've never dared to be truly honest about. They live in a world of impressions. You live in a world of impact. An effect does not need ornamentation. It needs realignment. You have it, and it burns through every phony ego in the room. So yes, you are irritating to the soulless because you remind them that they cannot scam their way into significance, counterfeit the holy, or fabricate presence. You have an old type of power, truth without agenda, honesty without costume. This creates a tense situation that they are unsure how to resolve. They can't stand you because they secretly want they could stand with you. However, the price of the soul is submission, and it is the one currency they have never been ready to abandon. Number 8, they keep swapping sides because you won't remain in a box. Some people can't abide the idea that you're changing, not because it's bad, but because it interrupts the screenplay they prepared for you without your knowledge. They had you classified, identified, and locked into a position that suited their needs. Maybe it was the underdog, the rebel, the people pleaser, the quiet one, or the failure. But whatever it was, it made them feel more in charge. Then you rewrote the whole storyline without asking for their permission. And now they have no idea what to do with you. They're cheering you on 1 minute, signing you the next, and covertly attempting to undermine you. It's not because you're inconsistent. It's because they're observing you through a lens that was never founded on reality. It was dependent on ownership. They were good with you as long as you were predictable, and your identity did not expand beyond what they could explain or outshine. But the moment you stepped out of the version they were used to, they freaked. Instead of asking themselves why your progress disturbs them, they changed the script. You are now making too many changes. You are no longer who you once were, yet they are upset because you outgrown the tale in which they were the author. People that value control will constantly battle with your development. They claim they adore you, but only the version of you who remains little enough to never harm their image. When you start responding in ways that don't meet their expectations, they flip sides, not because you did anything bad, but because they're seeing through a prism of fear, ego, and misplaced entitlement. You are not here to maintain consistency in someone else's dream. You came here to develop again and over. Every time you do this, you force individuals to make a decision. Do they develop with you, or do they turn against you to preserve their illusion? So, if they keep cheating on you, let them. That doesn't represent your value. It is a response to your emancipation. You were not created to fit inside anyone's box. You were born to shatter the mold. Number 9. Your truth is a spectrum, not a soundbite. You have never been the sort to conform to anyone's expectations, and that is precisely why people struggle to understand you. You are not simple. You are not linear. You're not the kind of person who can be summarized in a few words or assumptions. Your reality has several levels, including emotional, spiritual, mental, and ancestral. And anybody attempting to fit you into a single label will always miss the whole picture. But it does not deter them from attempting. People who dwell on the surface level believe they're incapable of handling your range. They only know how to interpret sound bites, therefore they want to comprehend you in that format. They tune out if it can't be truncated or reduced to a single line on Twitter. But your life isn't a quotation. It is a spectrum. One day you're the healer, the wise one, the visionary. The next, you're silent, contemplative, and facing your own darkness. And both are correct. That does not make you a phony. It makes you real. However, little brains struggle to contain contradictions. They desire stability. They have control. They want a version of you that is always digestible and predictable. So when you present them another perspective, one that contradicts what they thought they knew, they do not lean in to learn. They back off and label. They limit your existence to the last room they heard or the one time they misunderstood. They do not care about the truth. They want a version of you that they can manage. But you were not designed for sound bites. You were designed for legacy. You hold tales inside you that span several time frames. You are a mosaic of survival, knowledge, and fire. People who lack depth will constantly oversimplify you. They will take one chapter and treat it as if it were the whole book. But the chosen ones compose fresh chapters that disrupt systems. They alter the tale itself. So if others don't understand you, you don't have to shrink. Allow them to remain confused while you continue to grow. Because people who simply make small conversation can never comprehend spirits destined to change history. You were not intended to be summarized. You were supposed to unfurl. Number 10. You endanger the illusory hierarchies they revere. You wander into places where individuals have based their value on items that have no real meaning. And your presence reveals it without you having to say anything. They've spent years ascending towers composed of titles, clout, money, attention, and fabricated perfection. And here you come. There are no gimmicks, no approvals, chases, or performances. Suddenly, the whole room seems off balance. Why? Because you aren't playing the game. They formed their whole persona around this. Even worse, you're prospering without it. You threaten the hierarchy not because you are loud or belligerent, but because you reside outside of it and wield greater power than those within. You did not purchase your influence. You earned it by wounds, survival, spiritual depth, and honesty. That alone violates the unstated laws of an image-obsessed culture. You are a living reminder that authenticity does not need a platform to be powerful. And this is why you make people uncomfortable. You got others wondering why they wasted years pursuing hollow affirmation when you stand steady in your truth, radiating purpose without asking for it. Your resilience is disruptive. Your work without performance is hazardous because when people see someone like you, they understand they have been worshiping illusions and pursuing status symbols rather than reality. This revelation might either set them free or insult them. Some will get inspired. They will notice you and wake up. You will be living evidence that there is another way to live, that presence may exist without ego, power, manipulation, or adulation. Others, however, will want you to leave the room because you speak the truth. They are not prepared to confront. They will defame you, mock you, and call you arrogant, too spiritual, too profound, or too much. Not because it is real, but because your presence calls into question the falsehoods that have helped them rise to power. That tension, this divided response, it is not failure. It's confirmation that you're accomplishing something extraordinary. You were not created to fit into man-made hierarchies. You were designed to demolish them with your body. So let them respond. You did not come to play the game. You come to expose the board. A number. They are not confused about you. They are conflicted about themselves. When people say they're puzzled about you, they actually mean that you're forcing them to address issues they've avoided for years. It's not that people don't recognize who you are. It's that they don't know who they are while they're with you. Your presence has an unnerving influence on those who lead staged lives. When they meet someone who is honest, the masks they wear, the roles they perform, and the personalities they construct begin to break apart. You did not come in to divulge anything. You just stood in your truth. And the truth always destroys what is untrue. They begin glitching not because you're difficult to read, but because you are too authentic to ignore. You keep reminding them of each moment. They deceive to themselves every time they landed on an aspect of their identity designed for praise rather than alignment. And this leads to internal anarchy. They don't know how to handle, so they project it upon you. Suddenly, you're too passionate, too emotional, too unpredictable, or difficult to trust. But you have not changed. You have just sparked an ego breakdown. They weren't prepared for this. Their discomfort is all due to the mirror you unwittingly held up, not your character. Instead of recognizing that their identity is crumbling beneath the weight of reality, they choose the easy route and declare, "I just don't like them." However, dislike is often a hidden kind of self-rejection. They claim you are the issue, but deep down they know they are at battle with themselves. Instead of performing the inner work, they chose distance, gossip, shadow, or quiet in order to avoid staring in the mirror you brought with you. That is not confusion. That is conflict, psychological, emotional, and spiritual struggle. You did not expose them. They unraveled in your light. That unraveling may manifest as attitude, coldness, or an abrupt shift in behavior. But behind it all, there's a soul reckoning. And when they're ready to be honest with themselves, they'll know it wasn't about you. It was always about whatever they purported to be when you stepped into the room. A number. You are the exception that defies their justification. You were not intended to make it. At least not based on the tale they told themselves. You've gone through hell. You had every incentive to remain shattered. You did not get the head start, assistance, validation, or safety net. You did not follow the criteria of comfort or convenience. And yet, here you are, entire, grounded, authentic, and rising. This is an issue for those who have created excuses. That identity you see there represents people who have constructed their whole worldview around victimization, not the sort that recognizes suffering, but the kind that exploits it as a perpetual excuse to remain stationary. Pain became a kind of escape for them as long as they could point to their trauma. They were never required to accept responsibility for their decisions, progress, or healing. It was always someone else's problem, task, and weight to bear. But then you came along and wrecked everything without trying. Your existence is evidence. They never wanted evidence that you could go through tragedy and yet tell the truth, that you could be hurt and still walk with integrity, that you could be disregarded and still rise to your destiny. You exposed their justification simply by living with clarity. That is not something they can just reject. Some will be inspired by it. They will observe your life and feel a fire ignite inside them. They'll believe that if they can do it, so can I. You will be a silent trigger for their awakening. Others, however, will declare war on your name, not because you did anything to them, but because you made it difficult for them to continue lying to themselves. You symbolize all they might be if they let go of the falsehoods, laziness, and emotional attachment to being a victim indefinitely. You did not embarrass them. You just removed the barrier they were hiding behind. You highlighted the disparity between what they claim they want and what they are really prepared to do. You are not the villain. You are the outlier, the oddity that breaks the pattern. Some people would sooner attack you than acknowledge they were standing motionless as you emerged from the ashes with no map, audience, or justification. You have unwittingly sparked their spiritual amnesia or awakening. You did not enter people's lives to wreak havoc, but your presence triggered something old in them. You carried a frequency that was not loud but obvious. It did not demand attention. It demanded alignment. And by doing so, you ignited something deeper than feelings. You triggered people's spiritual memories or broke their illusions. Some individuals saw you and immediately recalled aspects of themselves. They'd forgotten the courage, intuition, and honesty they'd buried to fit in. Watching you move genuinely reminded them of who they were before life. Fear and training changed them. You awoke something latent inside them. You did not have to preach, teach, or persuade. You simply were. And it was enough to spark something divine. Others, however, had the reverse impact. Instead of waking, they fell into identity uncertainty. They'd spent years creating a performative, meticulously controlled version of themselves, based on ego approval masks. And then you stepped in with soul, with unwavering truth that did not need confirmation, and it collided brutally with the image they were fighting so hard to uphold. You were a mirror, and they couldn't take the reflection, so they began behaving strangely, pushing away, projecting, and attempting to dismiss or explain you away. Not because you changed, but because they found it too difficult to change with you. They had to choose whether to rise to the truth or to cling on to this costume. That's why the folks around you began to divide. Some drew closer, while others backed away as if you were poison. But you weren't the one who terrified them. It was the decision you pushed them to make. Rise or resist. Wake up or remain numb. You didn't say it out, but your life became the question they couldn't avoid any longer. You were the earthquake of clarity. You disturbed the ground under their spiritual autopilot. And those who were prepared developed. Those who weren't fled or attempted to pull you down to a level where they felt secure. Regardless, your presence compelled movement. That's how you know you're carrying more than energy. You carry alignment. You did not just enter the room. You moved it. A number. God created you to be controversial because truth is always polarizing. You weren't meant to be liked by everyone. And deep down, you know there's something in you that was never designed to fit in or make others feel at ease. That is not arrogance. That is alignment. You were created to disrupt, confront, and uncover the genuine truth. Divine truth has always been controversial. It does not coddle the ego or sugarcoat disorder. It confronts and separates. It deserves clarity. That is why, when you present yourself fully, you elicit an emotional response from others. Some feel seen, emancipated, and awakened, while others are tense, intimidated, and even insulted. And it isn't because you're being aggressive. Rather, your energy is a neutral. It bears weight. It confronts illusion. It pushes individuals to choose between growing or going, confronting themselves or attacking you. However, it will not enable spiritual slumber to persist. The chosen ones were never intended for widespread acceptance. You were not designed for superficial consensus or societal harmony. You were designed to shake the table. You are not here to maintain peace. You're here to make things real. Peace comes only when the truth is pierced through the cacophony. So if your presence generates friction, it doesn't always indicate a problem. It indicates something is functioning. Some people will adore you for it. They'll claim you provided them clarity, independence, and vision. Others will resent you. They will claim you are too much, too forthright, and too passionate. That is the job. That is proof that you were forged for a specific reason, not for praise. You are not a people pleaser. You are a pattern breaker. When you come into a place, spiritual systems begin to move, illusions quiver, egos tighten, and destiny is redirected. That's what your alignment achieves. That is what your truth triggers. God did not ask you to blend in. God has asked you to break open. And although you may not be everyone's favorite, you will be the one they remember. You will be the one who has altered them, whether they confess it or not. So let them to misinterpret you. Allow them to speak. Allow them to separate themselves. You were not sent to make everyone comfortable. You were sent to wake people awake. And sometimes waking sounds quite similar like disturbance. By now, it should be evident that you were never intended to be easily defined. You were not designed to be palatable, manageable, or explainable in one line. You're multilayered, spiritually constructed, and divinely disruptive. Your simple being dispels illusions, rattles frail identities, and reveals everything founded on ego rather than essence. That is why people disagree about you. Some say you're a gift. Others see you as a danger. Some people desire to follow your lead. Others want to trim your wings. But their emotions are never really about you. They are about how your presence challenges, heals, or wakes them. You are not being misunderstood. You're being decoded using lenses you never requested to wear. You were not born to fit a mold. You came to break them. You were designed to adapt, challenge hierarchies, and walk in unison, even if it costs you approval. That level of spiritual clarity will never be widely accepted. And it was never meant to be. You are a reminder that truth cannot be purchased, that souls cannot be fabricated, and that true power does not seek permission. So let them swap sides. Allow them to struggle in categorizing you. Allow children to create tales to make themselves feel comfortable. Because in the end of the day, your calling will not be understood. It has to be unmistakable. You are the mirror, the message, the wake-up call, the reason people rise or fall, whether they appreciate you or resist you. Both replies demonstrate that you are traveling in something cosmic, something totally chosen. Never dilute it. If this message struck your soul like a truth you didn't realize you were looking for, don't simply scroll away in quiet. Subscribe to this channel. Not for algorithms, but because you know this area communicates in ways that others would dislike. This film may have liberated something inside you. Comment below, and tell me which bits spoke to your soul or revealed something you didn't realize needed mending. I read them, I feel them, and if you know anybody who needs this message, who has been doubting their value, identity, or path, please share it with them. This isn't just content. This is a confirmation. This is clarity in an otherwise noisy environment. We are not creating a fan base here. We're creating a frequency, a tribe of individuals who know, see, and are finally ready to live in the truth unabashedly. So join the movement by commenting, subscribing, and sharing, and I will see you in the next one. But until then, remember that you were not brought here to be loved. You were sent here to rearrange the room. Let's continue shaking it. God bless you.